His latest picture is Scanners. It's the first Canadian film ever to be #1 on the Variety box office chart. It's so far grossed over $12 million. We're going to do a bit of a retrospect with the producer, the director, and the author of Scanners. Would you welcome David Cronenberg? Retrospective, I guess we could say. We're going to show clips from 4 of the movies. You've actually made 6, though, have you not?
7.
7 movies.
7,
what was the first movie you ever made, David?
Well, the first movie in the sense of feature film was called Stereo. And it was, in fact, about experiments in artificially created telepathy, which is basically what Scanners is about. Return to that.
One writer said that from Stereo, you've always stayed on pretty well the same sort of theme. Do you agree with that?
In a very general way, I think yes. But in terms of, if you looked at the plot summaries of these movies, you wouldn't see direct connections, I think. But when you see the film, there is a sensibility, I think, that definitely does go through all the films.
Well, you were going to be a writer when you were going to University of Toronto.
That's right.
What influenced you to move into film?
I saw a film called Winter Kept Us Warm, which is a film that was made at University of Toronto by a fellow named David Sector. And I was really quite shocked to see a film that had starred my friends, but actually was a real movie. It had never occurred to me before that I could make a film. And, you know, my 8-year-old nephew has made 5 films already. I don't think we'll see that again. But I was in my 20s before it ever occurred to me that I had access to film.
Why did you choose the horror genre? Because, according to all I've read, you were never into that type of a thing before.
It really chose me, in the sense that when I've written all my own scripts, and when I sit down to write, whatever comes up on the page is what I feel compelled to do, and that's what comes out.
Well, now let's talk about Shivers, 75. Okay. What prompted this? This is the story of bugs coming out of people's insides and attacking people in an apartment building?
Yeah, actually, people who've seen Alien will find a few very familiar things, and also altered states in this film, which I actually shot in 1974. But it's about a disease that spreads through a high-rise apartment building, and it's a very visible a disease, and a very metaphysical one as well, and it causes people to become very crazy and sexually violent, but it also spreads from mouth to mouth and body to body, and it's about this long, actually. It's a nasty-looking thing.
All right, let's take a look at it. This is called Shivers. This goes back. This was your first big national distribution.
This was my first movie as opposed to film, let's say.
First movie as opposed to film. It's called Shivers.
It was just another high-rise apartment building until one day something went horribly wrong. Why are the residents committing uncontrollable acts of violence?
Shivers. Being terrified is only the beginning.
Remember, lock your doors, bar your windows, don't go down the stairway, don't get caught tonight.
Shivers.
The film shocker of the year.
That's Shivers. All right, that's 75.
Yeah.
Were you impressed with the way Shivers took hold?
Yes, actually, because I think it was one of the first really serious horror films ever made in Canada. There really had only been 2 or 3 done at all before Shivers. And it was very difficult to get the film financed as a result because, of course, there's a long history of horror filmmaking in the States and in Europe, but here there wasn't. And it's such a solid genre, one that's always there for various reasons.
What about Rabid, then? Where did the idea for that come from?
Well, Rabid, in a way, is a kind of a sequel to Shivers, not directly, but thematically, it goes from the high-rise apartment building out into the city. And it's about a woman who has accidentally created a kind of artificial, kind of strange vampiress.
This starred Marilyn Chambers.
That's right, yes.
And the idea being that in order to survive, she had to suck the blood from people.
That's right, but didn't have to kill them. That was the thing.
I understand that because the English apparently have a bit of a thing about rabies, that this was extremely popular in Great Britain.
Well, I don't know if it was very popular in Hong Kong because it came out during a rabies epidemic in Hong Kong. And of course, the worst thing to do during a rabies epidemic is to pack theaters with yourself. But that's what happened. Everybody went to see this movie about and it's not really about rabies. It's about being rabid, which is metaphorically means, you know, insane and.
1977 Rabid, David Cronenberg's film.
Can't trust your mother, your best friend, the neighbor next door. 1 minute, they're perfectly normal. The next, Rabid. pray it.
And pray it doesn't happen to you.
Pray it doesn't happen. Now, I understand that these films, Shivers and Rabid and The Brood, we're going to see that up in the next segment, have become cult films in Germany and in Great Britain.
Well, they've even broken out now in the U.S. because of the success of Scanners. In the current Newsweek, there's an article on me and my films, and in that, Jack Kroll calls The Brood a horror classic. And it's nice to see it beginning to get recognized in North America as well. But for many years, these films have been very well thought of in England.
All right, we're going to come back with David Cronenberg. We have 2 more clips from 2 more of his movies. Then we're going to talk about why he isn't recognized for what he is at home after this timeout. David Cronenberg's our guest, Canada's master of horror, Canada's baron of blood, and a cult figure throughout the world. We have talked about Shivers and Rabid. What about The Brood, 79? Where did that come from, that idea?
Well, The Brood was the first film that I've done that was, I would say, was reasonably autobiographical. I know it may sound strange to do a horror film that's autobiographical.
Now, let's see. The story was the woman had a womb on the outside of her body in which children were created that would do her bidding. If the mother wanted these children to kill, they killed.
Yeah,
and they grew up very swiftly, too.
They were meant to be the incarnation of her anger against her life and her family and a lot of other things. And so that's not the part that's autobiographical, really. See, you know.
No.
But it begins, I like to say that The Brood is my version of Kramer versus Kramer, only it's more realistic. Because it is about a custody battle over a child between a man and a woman who have separated, and it begins very straightforwardly that way, and then it sort of edges over into nightmare.
All right, let's take a look at this particular clip. This is 1979, and this is The Brood. I don't know what the clip is. This is the only clip I haven't seen, so we'll see what part of The Brood we have. Watch.
They come from the unknown. They're here now, hiding, ready to strike. You can feel their presence all around you. Once unleashed, they destroy anyone who gets in their way. David Cronenberg's The Brood. They're waiting for you.
All right, there's The Brood. We were watching that. I recognize Nilda Fitzgerald. Do you use mostly Canadian actors and actresses?
Yes, we usually have 1 or possibly 2 foreign actors in a film. Not necessarily American. Patrick McGowan and Jennifer O'Neill are in Scanners. Oliver Reed and Samantha Egger in The Brood. But basically, out of a cast of 50, you have about 48 Canadians.
Now, The Scanners has just taken off. Is it that much better a film than Shivers or The Brood or Rabid, or is it because people are becoming used to David Cronenberg's style?
I think a lot had to do with the kind of distribution Scanners got in the States. There was something about it that just caught everyone's imagination. The idea of a kind of telepathy, and these Scanners are telepathists who do nasty things to each other.
I understand that when you were previewing the show, was it in San Diego? The start of the film had a head blowing up.
That's right, yeah.
And one of the critics fainted, and 3 of them had to be taken away.
She never
from the
got
room.
to see the rest of the movie. It was terrible. Except 37 people fainted the first time Rabid was shown in Quebec, actually. So, you know, I guess I'm getting more subtle.
Did you did you take the blown up head off the opening of and move it back farther in the picture?
Yes, but that was really had to do with the pacing of the film. You normally do a preview to get an idea of how the audience is responding to the film, and you shift a few things around. There was a slow spot in the middle, and by moving that down, it sort of eliminated that.
Where did you get the idea for the Scanners?
Scanners? Well, it really comes from a kind of adolescent fantasy of power, I think, that you go to bed powerless and weak, and you wake up finding out that you actually have some special power that was undiscovered in you before.
Watch The Power right now with Stephen Lack and Michael Ironside. Oh,
Yeah, well, that's short but sweet, I guess.
yeah. We didn't see the blood vessels all coming out. What are you working on now, David?
I'm writing a script called Videodrome, which I don't even myself know exactly what is. I don't know what the ending is. I'm only on page 72. And if the script develops well, we'll be shooting that in Toronto in October.
What do your children think of Daddy being a horror movie director and writer?
Well, my daughter's seen all my films and she loves them. And she brings friends home to watch them on cassette. I insist on getting notes from their parents, though, saying it's okay, I don't want any lawsuits.
Well, David, you're going to be a presenter at this Thursday's Genie Awards for the Best Director?
That's right. I'm quite happy to be part of the show, finally, because I've been a bit of an outsider in the Canadian film business for a while, and it's nice to I'll actually rent a tuxedo.
We look forward to seeing David Cronenberg at the Genie Awards at Royal Alec, and of course, I think we should have a retrospective of his films soon in Canada, very shortly.
I'm ready.
And David Cronenberg's ready, and we're ready too. Thank you, David, for being with us. Pleasure.